So this is TLRY, TLRY on November the 7th, 2018. Weed was running very odd today. It's been in an uptrend for the last few days, and honestly thinking that it probably would pull back today, and then over the next couple days form a higher low, and hopefully continue on up from there or find an equilibrium if we had one. Um, Dropped out of the gate, like I say, strange day, but dropped out of the gate, bounced back to test the open price range, and fell back again. And at this point, it was in the oversold lines of the RSI. I was watching that, didn't get the dip buy, left it. And by the time I came back to the chart, I had lines on my chart at 117.20, and I was looking for a possible start entry at the price if it broke above the open, which would have been 115, pretty much 116. And as soon as it broke 116, I noticed that the volume was still increasing. And at this point, it was, I, I only took 10 shares, very, very small. It was a speculative trade for me. I entered in knowing that I was already chasing a move right up into resistance, um, but entered in anyways to see how it would work out. And as you can see, the chart was fabulous. This thing just ran all day. At the end of the day, it was up 31, almost 32%. So huge move for a stock this price. But yeah, as soon as it got over 116, it tested that a few times. It never got below my trend line, which is a 9 EMA. And again, volume was still ramping up. So I just kept my trade on and left it the way it was. And it broke over the 17 mark that I have here, which corresponds to this candle right here, as my resistance above that open mark, which probably was this resistance at the open as well. And as soon as it held that, it just took off. And the next levels I had mapped out was 121.73, and then above that was 128. I believe it was right around 128 anyways, and that's kind of where I thought that this thing would peter out, and that was what I was going to get. And it broke through that and continued up to 128, and that's where the pullback happened. And I did sit through that. I probably should have sold just when I saw it getting into the resistance there, but it was a small enough trade for me that I just decided to hold this and learn a lesson on it and see what I could take away from it. But as you can see, and as I was learning, that the price dropped right back to the previous resistance that was sitting there at 121, 121.50, 121.60, I guess it was. And then it started curling up and it took off from there again. Struggled a little bit at the previous high here, and then it took off and it just ramped and kept going. And so I kept my trade on as long as this EMA held. And as soon as it failed, I ended up buying a little bit more and selling into it as soon as it started falling off here. So I probably could have held a little bit longer, but I sold down here when I saw it drop off and bought a little bit more and continued on. But all in all, it was a good trade. Pretty much from here to the drop was an okay trade. Like I said, I should have taken it off up here because that was what would that have been, a $6 drop. And if you had a lot of shares, that would be one substantial drop for, not taking profits up there. So I did learn a lesson right in this area where I should have taken my profits a little sooner than holding on that far. But and I guess looking back on it, hindsight, I should have looked to take my profits when 125 or sorry 125.90 on 120, maybe 126. If that failed that level at that candle, that's where I should have been taking off my trade, because at that point it was downtrending. But anyways, it was a lesson learned, and yeah, it was a huge day for Tilray. So we'll see if things continue tomorrow. Um, Again, I'm kind of expecting that there might be some profit taking at this point because it's already up so high, but there is news out. Um, and the whole market sector is pretty hot at this point. So we'll see what the continuation is tomorrow. But as you can see, there's a couple levels at 140, let's call that 148. And if it breaks that, I mean, it's open probably right up to 160. So yeah, it'll be an interesting day tomorrow, but I expect some pullbacks because the RSI on the daily is way over bought at this point. So I think there's going to be some profit taking in the morning.